Well, welcome to a very special edition of Rimshots with Sean here. I am Sean. With me is Roxanne Robinson, Executive Director of the Christmas Daddies, which is coming up December 2nd. Is that correct, Roxanne?
December 2nd. It's a Saturday.
It's incredible because somebody mentioned something else to me about December 2nd, and it's like time's flying. I mean, it's going to be on us before we know it.
Absolutely. It is just around the corner, and we are so excited to celebrate our 60th annual broadcast.
That's incredible. So for people that are my age, 36, just kidding. But I mean, we grew up with this, right? I have people that live away in Toronto, Vancouver, overseas. They still try to tune in. What can people expect in the 60th?
Because it's our 60th, we're going to dig deep into our memory vaults and show you some footage from years gone by. We have a special intro ready to go, and we're just super excited. We've got a lot of amazing talent to showcase from around the region. I can list off some names, or I can just tell you tune in because there's going to be some good surprises.
Well, and we will tackle that a little bit later because that's one of the things where there's some people that appeared on there that have gone on to big things in the music business, which is very cool. People don't understand that, so that's great. Um, One of the things that I want to get across more than anything else is when your folks are there from early morning until when it wraps, they do it on their own time. That's a volunteer thing, correct?
Absolutely. The tradition of Christmas Daddies is that all the people involved are volunteers. And that's a tradition that we have had since our beginning. Since our beginning, we everybody involved behind the camera, in front of the camera, we're here for the day to volunteer, and it's just an amazing tradition to keep up with. I don't know if you know the history of how Christmas Daddies started, but it started in 1964 when two gentlemen that worked here, one was Jack Dalton, who worked at CJCH Radio. Jim Hill was a producer at what was then CJCH Television. They witnessed a young boy begging in a local tavern for money. And when asked why he was doing that, the young boy replied that he was looking for money for bread and milk for his family. And they passed the hat. They raised $15 that year. And that sort of led those two gentlemen to wonder, well, it's this close to Christmas. If he doesn't have money for bread and milk, what's he going to do for Christmas? And that's how the whole concept of Christmas Daddies started. And they started a show. It raised $1,500 that first year in 1964, which was a lot of money at that time. And then here we are today, almost $38.5 million later. To the
That's
best of our
incredible.
to the best of our recollection and the best of our math, because the early years we didn't actually capture totals in a history book anywhere, but we're calculating that it's well over 38.5 million in 60 years, and it's all through volunteers.
And here's the very interesting thing to me: your rate of donations to people honoring pledges is ridiculously high.
Absolutely. And it's incredible to think that Maritimers are that generous. Actually, it's not that incredible. We all know how generous Maritimers are. It's just incredible that our pledge rate is higher than what we actually raise on the day of. And we attribute that to a lot of things. People don't call in and tell us they're going to donate. They just go ahead and donate anyway. We have the 50-50 draw now, so that certainly adds to our total. Another thing that happens is that people are bidding on an auction item and they may not win the auction item that they wanted to get, but they'll go ahead and donate the money anyway. So all of those things add up to, when we actually close the books, we have more money than we originally said we did when the telethon goes off the air.
And
It's an
what's
amazing
amazing to
problem
me,
to have.
well, and what's amazing to me is it always seems like there's something in the Maritimes that's going on where times might be a little bit tough, but this time of year, well, all year round, but this time of year in particular for this particular event, people step up and do their thing and always come forward.
Absolutely. I mean, we all know as Maritimers how much we look out after each other. and it's just a tradition that we uphold. That's what Maritimers do. We help each other out when times are tough. We all dig deep, and Christmas Daddies is no exception.
So you mentioned it's the 60th, but it's also I do believe it's the first time back in the studio since everything kind of we had the tablecloth try to pull the dishes off the table and it didn't work out. We won't talk about that anymore. However, any nerves about this, or is it just like riding a bike and you're right back to it?
We are super excited to be able to have live performances back in our studio and a few Czech presenters back in our studio. And yeah, we won't talk about those 3 years of what we had to do to get through it.
Yeah, and and it's interesting because I was having a discussion with somebody yesterday about a concert that got canceled in Ottawa, and then it got canceled again in Toronto, and it immediately went to that C word. It's like we have to learn to live with that. We're past it. I mean, I know it's still a thing for people, but what a great event to maybe get some of that out of people's minds now and get back to going. Hey, it's just about Christmas. We're 3 weeks away. Here we go.
It's the kickoff to the holidays for a lot of people, and we just want to be here to celebrate, and we're super excited about the show we're going to showcase for you all.
So now I heard through the grapevine, and I know I talked to you and you confirmed it, but the one, the only Mr. Steve Murphy's going to be back.
Steve will be our main host, and he is so excited to coming back into the studios and auction off a few items and tell you about a few generous Maritimers that are making donations. And he's the best. He's the best guy for the job. Absolutely.
He's one of those personalities that for whatever reason, there's been people before him that have been popular. There's been people after him, but he's this brand that just keeps hanging around, that never gets tired. I've talked to him a number of times. He's pretty much the same guy off the air that you see on the air. What do you think it is about him and this event that really kind of resonates with people?
Steve is just so genuine, and it comes across so easily. I mean, he is Mr. Christmas Daddies, absolutely. And I joked with him when he actually retired and went off the air on CTV News at 6 that he was not allowed to retire from Christmas Daddies at all. So, and he tells me that I told him he's not allowed to retire. So he's keeping his word. He's coming back.
Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear because really and I mean, eventually, things do have to change where, people just can't do it anymore. And it'll be, I guess, sad when that happens. But in the meantime, it is great. I mean, you've got your 60th. It's the first time back in a couple of years. He's back. Who are some of the other familiar faces that people might see or notice?
You will see Todd Battis. You'll see Maria Panopalis, Jason Baxter, Katie Kelly. In New Brunswick, Laura Brown will be joining us. Avery from St. John, Alana Pickrell. In Cape Breton, look forward to some comedy from Bette McDonald. In PEI, Jimmy the Janitor will provide some comedy along with Jack Morse.
I had this uncanny, so I'm a musician and I play on a full-time basis. And I had this, I think it was 4 years in a row. I was in St. John, New Brunswick, and was at the mall and saw the remote set and it was amazing. It was a lot of fun. I just hung out there for a couple hours and watched. And what was always amazing to me was, the people in front of the camera were great. The people behind the camera, and they never get enough acclaim, but just what a job that they did. And I had a friend that worked at CTV for years. And so, I mean, I know, but talk about those folks a little bit because, that's something that maybe sometimes they don't get their due enough.
We absolutely could not do the show without the cameraman and the lighting guy, David Eade. I mean, that man works tirelessly. He's been working for weeks already and still has, more time to go to get us on the air. But, audio, we can't forget audio. Audio, if we didn't have music and we didn't have mics, we would be nowhere. And, the camera people and the people that set everything up, I don't think people realize until you actually see a television production like you did, how much work goes into this program. And I couldn't be prouder of all of these people that donate their time to make this happen so that we can raise money for kids at Christmas, because that's what it is all about.
Absolutely. My good friend Brian Norman worked with you guys for years, and I used to joke around with Brian. It was the one time a year I actually get to see him smile, so that was pretty good.
And Brian's coming back this year, so we're excited to see Brian again because he has retired, but he's coming back to help us with show. And that's another thing that happens is people retire, but they still come back and help with Christmas Daddies. It's awesome.
Amazing. And all joking aside, he's one of my favorite people. I've known him for years. So we kind of touched on it a little bit, but you're a big part of Christmas Daddies as the act. So you'll have everything from musical acts to, you mentioned comedians, and what always impressed me was the variety. Right, you never knew what was going to come at you.
We have an impressive array of talent this year. If I can just look at my cheat sheet, I'll give you some names. But in New Brunswick, spectacular performances by Mike Bigger, Matt Anderson, Ivan Daigle, Joan Kennedy. In Cape Breton, it would not be a show without Matt Minglewood and Morgan Toney, Keith Mullins, Hearts of Kin, Heather Rankin. That's just a few of the names. I'll drop a few more in PEI. Lenny Gallant, Catherine McClellan, Richard Wood, Lawrence Maxwell. And in Nova Scotia, we have some performances from Michaela Lynn, Joe H. Henry, Dee Dee Austin, Miles Goodwin, Charlie Acourt, and Jamila. Just a few name drops there.
Sorry, we had a little technical gap, but we're back. So, I mean, and that's incredible because, I mean, it's often said it's hard to get a musician out of bed before noon. And, and I remember playing the old breakfast television where I'd be playing downtown till about 3 a.m. and then have to hustle over to the studio to get there for 6. So for all these folks to give up their time, it's really an incredible thing. And I guess the people at home that tune in, I'm not going to say they take it for granted, but they probably don't know. So it's good that this is once again taking place.
We're super excited. I don't know if I've said that probably a million times already, but we cannot hardly wait for Saturday, December 2nd and 11 a.m. to kick off. And it is the kickoff to many people's holiday tradition. We get lots of people saying that's the day they decorate their tree. That's the day they start their Christmas baking. That's the day they write out their Christmas cards while they watch the show. And it certainly is a great show that gets us all in the spirit for Christmas.
I'd be remiss, and I can use big words every now and again, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you. Everybody sees the product on the day of, but there's a lead up. Events take time. Events take a lot of work. What's your, I guess, lead time from the time the lights go off on the 2nd until the next year?
Monday, the next day.
But people need to know that.
Yeah, we start planning pretty early. There's a lot of elements that need to get coordinated. I pretty much start full time in September working on this program. So it is a big lead up, but I like to describe it as an onion. There's a lot of layers to this show between sponsorship and volunteers and obtaining auction items and rounding up all of those performers. And it's a big project, but I think it comes off pretty well, and it couldn't happen without everybody stepping up. The expression, it takes a village. Well, this does take a village.
Absolutely. And I've worked in the event world for a number of years, and obviously when people donate, that's huge, but corporate sponsorship or corporate partnership is a huge part of these things. And it's getting, I don't want to say harder and harder, but, people have to kind of count their pennies a little bit every year. When you guys go out and get that sort of thing, I'm assuming the business community is just, yeah, let's go. How do we do it?
The business community is amazing and always step up for us. And I mean, we would not be able to do this program whatsoever without the contribution from Bell Media, who is our, presenting sponsor, for lack of a better word. They provide free of charge to us the airtime, the technical equipment, the building. And if that wasn't being donated to us, that, how would we go on the air? We just couldn't. Bell Alliance steps up in a big way to help us make sure that those phones work and are up and running. They provide bodies, volunteers to answer those phones. And it's a massive village, but everybody steps up and does their part. And it's heartwarming to know that everybody, wants to take a piece and make sure that this program gets on the air, because in the end, it's all about raising money for kids at Christmas time. Our distribution partner is the Salvation Army. We would not be able to do this without them. I like to describe it as we're just a bunch of TV people that put a show together, and that show just happens to raise some money. And then that money is handed over to the Salvation Army, and they handle the distribution to the families, to the kids that need the help at Christmas time. And I just like to think of it as we all do our part to make sure that it works. And it's a perfect partnership between us and the Salvation Army, because they're good at what they do. We all know that. And we like to think that we're good at what we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've had a number of people from away. So I have friends in Toronto. I have friends, right around the world. I've got a ton of new friends down in the States, and they're asking, okay, well, this is on TV in Atlantic, Canada, but is it possible to see it online? Is there an opportunity to do that? And you're going to tell me.
Absolutely. That is a great question. And we get that question asked quite frequently. And it will be available on a live stream on ctvatlantic.ca. So there'll be a link on our christmasdaddies.org page to that link on Telethon Day at 11 a.m. Or just pop on to ctvatlantic.ca at 11 a.m. Atlantic, and the link will be there for the live stream. And then sorry to interrupt, but after the show, we do post the entire broadcast on our YouTube channel for Christmas Daddies, but that takes us a few days. So if you want to see it live, tune in live at 11 a.m. Atlantic. But if you can wait a few days for us to get it up on YouTube, we do make it available there. And when the show ends, it doesn't matter. We can still take donations on our website. We like PayPal, we like e-transfer. So if you do miss the show and want to make a contribution, you can do that anytime. You can even do it right now.
Well, you know what? That's a very important point, because I think sometimes people turn that tap off in their mind where they don't realize, it's over the second that's it. And really, this is a year-long endeavor.
Absolutely. You can donate anytime on our website, christmasdaddies.org. We like PayPal. We like e-transfer. We try to make it as easy as possible. If you really want to do it the old-fashioned way, you can write us a check and mail it in, and we'll issue your charitable tax receipt. I think the important part to mention is if you do donate online with PayPal or e-transfer, that you provide to us your mailing address. And you can do that in the little message box, and we'll get that tax receipt off to you, because that's the important part for donors as well. We always like to acknowledge those contributions with a charitable tax receipt.
December 2nd, 11 a.m. till, is it 6 p.m.?
p.m. Yes.
December 2nd, Christmas season starts, and everybody who's an Atlantic Canadian, such as myself, born and bred away for a few years, but this is really this is a kickoff to, we got to say, the holiday season now. We can't, we've got to be inclusive, and that's great. Roxanne, thanks so much for doing this. I'm looking forward to finally seeing it again in its old format.
Thank you, Sean. So great to talk to you, and please tune in and watch Saturday, December 2nd.
We're going to get them out. Thanks again. We'll chat.